Welcome back, everybody, to the Fretboard Journal podcast. I am your host, Jason Berlindi, the founder of the Fretboard Journal magazine. Thank you so much for tuning in. Fun fact, 2025 will be the 20th anniversary of the Fretboard Journal's launch. I cannot believe it, and it's all due to you all out there tuning in, getting the magazine, subscribing over at fretboardjournal.com, telling your friends. I know we fly under the radar of mainstream media. I know we are not the fastest to join the social media trends or TikTok or any of the things the kids are up to. But slowly and steadily, we have grown and created this incredibly cool community. I love that we do this podcast. I love that we do our other podcasts. We just put out a new Luthier on Luthier. You should all go check out with Mark Stutman of Folkway Music. And I love hearing from you all. So keep the feedback coming, please. Podcast at fretboardjournal.com. And know that during these incredibly stressful times, the election, the holidays, all the things, I am thinking about you all and want to entertain you and give you some nice distractions. So on the podcast today, I am talking to Trevor Boone from Emerald City Guitars. Now, Trevor has really transformed the store, and not just by carrying really, really high-end guitars, which they are doing now. He's transformed how guitar stories get told in a retail environment. They've put an incredible focus on video. If you are not following their YouTube channel, you should. And it really speaks to me. What we do here at the Fretboard Journal, what we do with the podcast is try to bring life to this static world of guitars and talk about the people behind the guitars. Trevor is doing that with his incredible videographer and with his incredible staff and celebrating all these old guitars that come through the store. It's really an interesting way to do things. I was lucky enough that he came to our Fretboard Summit in Chicago last August. And I wanted to hear all about it because this is a ballsy move. Not many stores go in front of the camera and do something beyond just the demos and here's what's in stock. Not many tell the actual stories, and very few, if any, are doing it at the level that Trevor is doing it right now. It's a fun chat. I learned a lot. Trevor is just this incredible bundle of energy, and it's fun to pick his brain for an hour, which is what I did. Our podcast flourishes because we have a handful of sponsors who love what we do. First up, Collings Guitars. They've got the new Hill Country line of guitars. Everybody needs to try these out, especially all of you jaded folks out there who have always thought, I like the old vintage guitar sound better than the new, brighter sound of boutique guitars. The Hill Country really taps into that vintage Martin and Gibson tone, and they're just so special. So go to your local Collings dealer, check out Collings' website, follow them on Instagram, and tell them the Fretboard Journal sent you. We are also brought to you by Stringjoy Strings, based in Nashville, Tennessee. You can get a discount on your first order at stringjoy.com just by using the discount code FRETBOARD when you check out. It's fun to try out new strings, especially if you've got a guitar or a banjo or a mandolin that you just haven't played recently. It's fun to see how big a difference new strings from a new company can make. Our friends at Peghead Nation are also sponsoring the podcast. You can get your first month free or $20 off of any annual subscription with the discount code FRETBOARD when you check out. Many, many former Fretboard Journal subjects are teaching at Peghead Nation, and it is so much fun. I use their site often. I download the PDFs, and I make a big stack, and eventually I try to play them, and you could too. Again, pegheadnation.com. We are also brought to you by another great Seattle guitar store institution, Mike and Mike's Guitar Bar. mmguitarbar.com is how you can follow them. They also have a YouTube channel and an incredible Instagram feed. And if anyone ever finds themselves in Seattle, it's super inviting. You can go multi-levels, multi-rooms. You can go check out all the cool vintage guitars, synths, amps, and surprises over at mmguitarbar.com. The 55th issue of the Fretboard Journal is going to be mailing in just about a week, so please, if you haven't subscribed yet, join us, fretboardjournal.com. It's one of my favorite issues that we've put out so far. And thanks, as always, for tuning in to the Fretboard Journal, to the Fretboard Journal podcast, to the Truth About Vintage Amps podcast, to Luthier and on Luthier, and all the things that we do. It means the world to me. We've got quite the little ecosystem here of guitar geekdom, and I'm really proud of it. Now here's my chat with Trevor Boone. Trevor Boone, welcome. Fretboard Journal. You've never been here.
I haven't. I was telling you, this building, all of a sudden when I parked, I had a bunch of memories because I rehearsed down here for years.
PTSD.
yeah, hauling stuff down those steps and the funky elevator. But no, it's a cool vibe in here, man. I'm happy to be here.
This is a rare Trevor Boone in Seattle moment based off your Instagram. You are just like traveling like crazy.
Yeah, man. I've kind of been doing it my whole life. But it's kind of fun being able to show the adventures on YouTube and Instagram. And sometimes I look back at it, I'm like, God, I am all over the place, But we were just kind of talking about this when I'm home, and I'm home with my wife, with my daughter, and really try to water that garden. But it's like, I think 5 months on the road a year, basically. It's sometimes, especially with the big Guitar V stuff.
Usually when people have a kid, the hustling slows down. You seem to be ramping up.
Yeah, that's come up a couple times with people, and I really trimmed the fat on traveling where, I was just in LA this week, and it should have been probably 4 days, and cut all that to 2 days, condense it, and it's a lot. It's hard, but it's working like that. There's a lot of kind of howdy on each end of things, meeting people, and it either means more smaller trips, or you just, like I said, got to kind of cut the fat,
Yeah. I mean, your dad I've always viewed Emerald City as like a higher end store, but I feel like you've reached this like upper echelon. You had 3 dumbbells at the same time in the store, which I think is pretty unheard of. Yeah,
man. I mean, the shop opened in 1996, small. My old man was an old rock and roller, was in a hair metal band that had some little bit of success, no money, but MTV late night music video. And when he opened up the shop, it was kind of getting out of that, and he'd managed shops, obviously. And it was really, I still have literally the book, Starting a Business on a Shoestring. It was small business. Still, a lot of that is the membrane of it, but it was just a funky shop, man. It was like Silvertone, Harmony, Second Tier. And obviously, as growing up in this, there's always mystique around the cool vintage high-end stuff. And I just went after that stuff at a young age, and just kind of transformed into, we still have all the fun Second Tier, can't say no to the oddball music makers and 3-legged dogs. But what really keeps that world rolling is those high-end crazy pieces.
And I can't even imagine what some of these trips must be like. I think we tend to watch American Pickers or whatever and see the art of the deal or whatever. Do you ever go on these trips and just, you can't strike a deal? Or do you kind of know if you're going to fly to LA, something's going to happen, you're going to come back with a guitar?
Yeah, great question. I drive Ken, our video guy, nuts because how he operates is very timestamp. What are we doing? Yeah. And I've learned over time, you really can't plan. I used to try to plan these LA trips, but you're on musician time, you're on LA time, you're on whatever, New York, Austin, Nashville. So there, some trips I just have to show up, and it's like, I know things are going to happen. something's going to cook, and I'll make it worth it. I got to at least pay for the hotel rooms, and so I'll buy a Strat, that's $800. I can flip for $1,400 to get, the rooms checked off. But the more in-depth ones, I think they're crazy, man. They're emotional. They have to do with family assets. There's so much time before I get on the plane talking through that, and I love that part. I think it's a strong suit of mine. I'm emotional with this stuff, and I get that, and there's a lot of kind of a prelude to that deal. So a lot of it is done before. Even when we land there, it's like, I've been in the car, we good? How you feeling about this? You're dealing with things that are family heirlooms or recently passed friends, family, siblings, and it's all there, man. Those are the ones I like to chase too. It's rarely like, if the ones that are worth a video, it's like they take an extra level of work and love. And that's kind of what I go for.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably no secret most reality shows are pretty scripted. In the case of your operation, you're not only doing a guitar deal, but you're convincing someone to be in front of the camera, and then they're not actors. They're just
No. Yeah. That's such an interesting, that's a huge part of it, as you
Yeah.
know, is making it comfortable. But it's just Ken and I. So I've already had these conversations. I've thrown myself out there, open arms, open ears. Like the vulnerability is kind of on both parts. And Ken's so easy. We've been friends my whole life, basically. We did Boy Scouts together in high school, and he knows what to expect with me, all the craziness and chasing around. He does such a great job, man. I have to give, him and my entire team credit for everything they do. But Ken knows how to chase me around and how to do it tactfully, where it's not going to interrupt kind of that natural flow of what's going on, the deal, the emotions, all that.
I mean, that had to be, in hindsight, one of your best decisions in terms of exposing the store to millions of people on YouTube. But I imagine you're running this store, guitar stores, thin margins, always some headache. You're hiring a videographer. From what I understand, he worked for like a .com. Like probably makes what a videographer working full-time for a .com makes. That had to have been a big gamble on your part, right?
It was. There's a transition kind of going on the last 10 years, and it's been a strong suit is come from old school guitar shops. I was going to guitar shows literally when I was 4 or 5 years old. And I remember the old school thing. I remember the old school shops. But as I was getting into it, I saw the changes, the detail, how meticulous guys were getting, the internet, reverb, G-bass. And it was like, content was not slowing down, and I think the idea for me was there's some great shops. I definitely try not to be biased, but I feel like we're going to be in that top 3 realm, right? And I believe even more so in our staff and what we believe in and how we operate, our morals. And it was like, Carter can open up their door and an influx of gear. We do a great job at that, but I wanted to lean into our strong suit, which is us. It's my staff. Seriously, our shop is tailored to the most amazing people. That operation is just incredible. And Ken was a way to show that in a way that descriptions can't, photos can't. And then just to have fun, I got to a point where I had this backup at the shop where I did have the ability to leave for a little bit. And it was, the first one we did, it was an insanely emotional, crazy thing. And I was going there already. And I said, do you want to come with me, and follow me around? And he did. And after we shot it, we were at this restaurant after the whole thing. And we were just sitting there like, man, this was like, he got to see what I was doing kind of for the first time. I think he was kind of amazed by just the obstacles of weaving through emotions and then coming to terms on a guitar and stuff. And we just said, this is cool. We like it. Let's do it. Maybe people will dig it, maybe they won't, but yeah, man, it definitely, people love YouTube. I've never been a YouTube guy. I'm still not. And it was really cool to see some of the reach and where that goes. And it's pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, I think one of your superpowers is the fact that you actually brought up that, a guitar transaction was emotional. Most guitar dealers, the stereotype is like it's not very touchy-feely, it's more transactional. You are very likable, and I'm sure that being presented on camera, a whole bunch of people who maybe not trusting other guitar dealers because it was a little more black and white might be like, hey, we should call you guys up.
Yeah, it's interesting. That has helped. We've been able to kind of get 75% with somebody, or they're talking to, all the regular cats, and then they saw an example. This video that we did with this gal named Christy is one that people have seen and called several times on, and really cool. emotional story. I mean, I get chills thinking about it, and it has been able to give somebody an idea of kind of like what it could be besides a transactional deal. And to me, it's like so many of these guitar stories or their past owner, it just gets lost like that, just another piece of lumber in the yard. And I think, like, for me, I would love that my family to do that, like show my interest, talk a little bit about me, honor the guitar's history, its journey with that owner. And it's just out there, it's something that's going to be there for a long time. It's powerful, man. And it's just again, like, we are in a position where we get to do stuff that we want. We're not this big corporate, uptight thing. It's like, man, if we dig it and we believe in it, like, let's give it a shot. And it's worked out, man. It's been really fun.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that I and various others, including a lot of people I think who don't normally watch YouTube, love about it is, like, you're taking time to professionally make a video that is often about, like, really minutia parts of guitar history. Most people wouldn't take the time to do that. It would be like, hey, we're going to buy this guitar, and this guitar. We're going to flip it next week. Here's your money. Bye.
Yeah.
And you are documenting, in many cases, these, like, former owners' lives in a way that's going to live for decades online.
Yeah. It's, and thanks, man. I mean, that's exactly our mission, is, and it comes down to, like I said, like, what is our strong suit here? I really believe that my entire team, we all shared this. It's all love down there, man. We know each other's souls down there, and we're all on the same page as, like, what we're doing, and what goes around comes around. And it's just like, honor those for the right reasons, throw your hands up. This is less about me, it's like, there's a lot of times I don't want to be on, I don't want to go do this dance around. People are getting sick of my mug running around, but it's like, man, this is like, you have to just go, this is about the guitar, the person, and whatever, it's a cool deal for us. So
have you ever made the trek with your filmer? Maybe the deal even happened, but then afterwards they're like, don't share that.
No, I haven't. Yeah. I mean, I try to avoid that because still, we have, like, these great big optics, but man, we're a small business. We, keeping the doors open. We pay our staff great. We really try to take care of people on what they get for their instruments and all that. And it costs money to sell guitars. And so it's got to kind of make sense, and I got to vet that to get on the plane and pay for the hotel and do the whole deal. I mean, a lot of times it's like, just the expense to tell these stories, a lot of times it's a wash, but it's, again, it goes back to, like, let's just do it. This needs to be told, or this will be cool. And our YouTube channel, you don't make money, at our level.
Yeah.
We're not making money off these videos. I think every once in a while,
not compared to the expenses. Yeah.
No, I think we get like $300 or something in ads here and there. And I just, like, that goes to camera gear and memory cards and
sure.
But so generally, to summarize that, we have a pretty good, it's been a kind of a perfect record as far as, like, getting the job done. Cause I've been able to kind of vet and get there with people and know what's going on. I mean, there's always surprises on equipment, not all the time, but I've learned to yield that, some percent of it. Like, okay, so this is switched, this needs a neck reset. And, dude, I've been doing this for so freaking long. There's just not a lot of surprises left. So I've kind of been able to figure out what it's really going to look like and apply that.
Speaking of surprises, you guys, one of the hauls that you got that was sort of like every guitar person I knew was talking about it was the Kalamazoo guitars.
Unbelievable.
The stash from Kalamazoo. What'd you do with all those banjo necks?
Yeah. So we are finally getting to this video, and I still get guys, what happened to the Kalamazoo video? Jackie, who, God, what an amazing woman, man.
Husband and wife, worked for Gibson.
Collectively for 50 years.
Yeah.
25 years each until literally turned the lights off at the factory. We're there. We're these, applauded employees. Incredible.
On the Gibson bowling team.
Met on the Gibson bowling team, and we're married through, each worked there over 25 years. Yeah. So that was just the craziest thing, man. I mean, how that all worked out, how I met these people was I met the son-in-law of Starbucks next to where I live. And it was just like one of those crazy things, and chased this story and talk about like levels. Family sensitive,
Yeah.
none of this. Jackie, who's a widow, Hubie had passed away. She didn't even tell anybody he passed away because all this stuff was in the house as security issues,
Sure.
and she was like, from afar, having her daughter as kind of the middle woman, you're trying to explain, we're not going to, she saw a video, but you're like, we're not coming in there guns blazing, camera guy. You look at her videos, it looks pretty pro. And so there was a lot of nerves. She was really classic, protected old gal. And man, when we got there, pick up flowers, and it's like, we didn't even touch the camera for an afternoon, just hung out under their trees and picnicked, and it was so amazing, man. I mean, the whole trip, guitar wise, out of control, overwhelming collection and artifacts. But again, that human connection with her, spending 3 days with her, just like slow rolling through the whole thing, honoring her husband, her legacy, stories of the different generations of Gibson. And, it was unreal, man. It was definitely like on the Mount Rushmore of like experiences I've had in my career. So that video, we got all this footage like about a year ago. Yeah. And we waited till she was coming up here for her granddaughter's graduation. And so I did an interview with her maybe 6 months ago, and the rest of the family. And, so we have that all. We've been so busy, man. We just wanted to, again, I didn't want to go and rush this like beautiful thing and just like try to edit it. This is one, we have a quick turnaround too. It was like, this is one I wanted to be like chilled out in the right mindset and approach it, because just the follow through of that, it was so special and just a heavy experience. We're just now about to dig into that footage and complete that video. It's the only video that we haven't put out like a week after we filmed it. So it's going to be a little different and kind of, I can't remember what we filmed. But I remember being there. At this point, I don't even, realize that Ken's behind me. So it's going to be fun to kind of see, true digging, sliding up the garage, dust, headlamps, pulling out. It was crazy, man.
Yeah. And when I was at your shop right after that, there were Tupperware bins, Rubbermaid bins of like 50s and 60s and 70s banjo parts.
Yeah, sorry.
Maybe further along. What do you do? Yeah. What's your strategy with something like
so
that?
I'm sorry I brushed
all the
past
ephemera that comes.
So when we got all that stuff, we put a blast up, and a lot of the stuff sold immediately. Okay. I've held on to some items just to have for the video and give viewers when they see this, if they want a kind of a cool piece of history. Then I've got a storage unit in a secret location that is filled with like parts galore. I mean, like you talk about banjos, the All-American banjos.
Yeah.
There's like 7 or 8 of those, the 70s ones. I think they also did them in the 30s, but the 70s ones, I think 30 were made. Half of them are in there. Like they have never been assembled. Then so many more. I mean, honestly, I was like, that's one that I talked to Tyler about. Hey, do you want to take these on, and put them together? Or I'm open to finding a shop that's their thing. I haven't even been able to get there in my brain. So many cool, unbelievable things are still sitting in this storage, and we're getting there, man. I think by the end of the year, I'm going to start digging into that stuff, but we've got so much going on, it's
when you go and do these deals, it's not shown on camera for obvious reasons, but are these cash deals? Do you wire money? Like, how does it work?
All that, I was just telling somebody about this insane deal. I had to fly to Florida to drop off a burst, and I was talking to this guy, like called me 2 days before, the 54 Strat he thought was a custom color black Strat, and I'm like talking to him, trying to get him. He promised me, but I'm leaving in 2 days, so I can't just jump on a plane to West Virginia. And it's not easy to get to West Virginia from Seattle, by the way. And so I kind of had a handshake over the phone that it was gonna, that he's gonna keep it for me for a couple weeks till I get home. And I get off the phone with him. I'm running around for an hour, and I'm like, I got to get to West Virginia. I don't think it's going to be there. And if this is a custom color black Strat, so I go drop the burst off. I have to take the next morning. I take like 2 small connection flights, almost miss them, get to West Virginia, and this father and son roll up, and man, I mean, backwoods, and it was refinished Strat, popped it up. It was obvious when I saw it, and a couple all sorts of stuff, but freaking cool, vibey old 54 Strat that had some gnarly refin. And I get in this car. They didn't want to check. So I said, I'll do a wire transfer. Let's go to a bank right now. I'm in West Virginia cruising around looking for a Wells Fargo, and there isn't one in this town. And I'm driving around in a camo truck. There's a dead deer in the back. I'm stuffed in the back with all this hunting gear, 54 Strats in the back of the hunting gear. There's no bank to do this deal. And I'm like, and they're total backwoods. Like, it was hard to understand the dad, and he's really concerned. Had to convince them, man, like, please take a check if there's anything, showing them the business checking account, everything. And they eventually took it, all good. But I generally try to do wire transfer. It's just clean, it's quick.
Yeah.
I've carried insane amounts of cash over, it's funny. I remember listening to John from True Vintage talking about how he had issues going. I've never had issues flying with cash, man. I flew Bonamassa down a buttload of cash because when he had to buy this V, the trash bag V, they needed cash and his bank wouldn't give him cash. I think I flew, pulled every stop together, flew down like 40 grand or something. It was weird. It's kind of an unnatural feeling. You feel like you're doing something illegal, but I've never had issues flying with cash, knock on wood. But it was funny after hearing that interview, whenever that was a few years ago,
Yeah.
I think I was kind of like, probably best to do wire transfers. It's just clean,
In the case of the deer guy, the deer father son,
Yeah.
you thought it was a custom. They thought it was a custom.
They were
color.
sure it was a custom color.
So the price that you were going to offer must have dropped dramatically there.
Yeah, and they send me pictures, and it was the pictures you want, like blurry photos on grandma's bedding. I mean, I was like, yeah, let's go. I had, guilty until proven innocent is how I look at those, and I most likely refinished, but it was like, God, what is this thing, And if it was refinished, I don't know if I would have, if I knew it was refinished for sure, if I would have made that trip. But it was like, there's something there, and they opened the case. It was like, but then I had to explain it to them and take it all apart in this little hotel. It was crazy. And there's been a million trips like that. That was kind of a funny one where it was like, I couldn't do a wire transfer. Then you have to convince them to take a check, kind of like showing your credentials, but they were, worked out, man. It was cool. That guitar's in Japan now. And, but yeah, I went from, 120 grand to, I think I bought it for 28K or something. I don't remember. It was a while ago, but it was cool. Player's grade 54.
When you have to break that news, it's like sort of like Antiques Roadshow. Like, do you ever get people in denial of like, you're full of BS, I'm going to go to the next dealer? Like, do they always take it well?
Yeah. I mean, they do. I mean, they sometimes there's a letdown, but we've had that, we have that discussion like, hey, and I really, again, like, I'm not just on the phone, off the phone. I get a lot of feedback from people who just got blown off from big dealers who just didn't take the time. I'll tell them the whole deal. I mean, I want it to be real. I want them. That's great. I'll pay you a lot more money. But, and so we just kind of get there. I do try to like somewhat keep their expectations like, hey, I think I just am able to kind of communicate that well. So I've never had a massive letdown. I was going back to your question, like, I've left guitars for sure that I've looked at, but not on like video stuff. Cause that's like kind of, but yeah, I mean, man, over again, just 30 years, 20 years running around, especially 20 years by myself. There's guitars I'm just like, sorry, I'll leave that, it's so toast,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's this all going? Like, this is an election year. I think people get uneasy about the economy all the time for whatever reason. Like, do you see this rarefied world that you now are a huge part of, these 6-figure guitars and amps now? Is it just going to continue to rise? Do you worry? Are there trends that you see?
Yeah. And I'm not trying to say that, you know, this is truly what I believe and I see and I experience. So it's just, I have full confidence in this. And I also have, you know, grown up in a guitar shop and then add my father's experience. I mean, these discussions have been floating around forever. My take on this is, first off, I'm always blown away by where these guitars go. It's all over the world, you know, and there's people who collect thimbles. You know, we don't even know the depths of like collections and interest on things. And I'm constantly surprised by just that. I've also seen, you know, I tell people back in, people said this after like the 2020, 2021 crazy kind of bubble. All this stuff is going to come back for sale. And, you know, I'm going to wait to buy a Burst or a Telly. And, you know, I back in like 2007, when the economy kind of went down, like you saw some guitars come on the market for a pretty good price. Since then, a lot of these have gone into a entirely different bracket where these aren't what guys sell when there's a little dip in the economy. So you're not seeing these like, I got to sell my Burst. They're not, they're like looking at like massive properties and, you know, selling a bit. I mean, Bursts are going to a different world now. And so, again, everything fluctuates: cars, watches, guns, whatever, houses. But there's an upward trend. And with guitars, especially vintage guitars, there's a limited number. We're losing some to, you know, Nashville floods, LA fires, Angry Girlfriend. So we lose a couple every year. There's demand. Then you get guys like John Mayer come through, or Post Malone, who are like massive, strong advocates and breathe life into this new generation. It's been really cool for me, kind of as a younger guy, seeing the last 10 years, like the younger cats get into these guitars, and people are like, how do you afford a 50s or 60s Strat? You know, a lot of times your first introduction to one isn't like cash on the table. Trust me, it happens. But for me, when I got my guitar, dude, I wheeled in everything I had: 3 Space Echoes, Marshall amp, everything I had, and I got one guitar, and I was in the door, you know. Then it just kind of, then you go from there. But if you look at these things, and you believe they're unobtainable, in some contexts they are. There's guitars on amps I'll never have, you know, the experience of having in my house as my own personal property. But you can there's ways, you know, if you've been a guitar collector and you're looking at, I mean, look just in this room, you know, look at all these guitars. If you hauled all these in one day, you can get into one guitar. Sure. Pretty cool. So obviously I want to feel a responsibility to be to continue to show people how cool these are. Yeah. This American folk art, these amazing instruments, the legacy of some of these companies. I want to be someone that is able to like show that and demonstrate it and educate. I think that's important. But man, guitars are cool as shit, dude. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, there's cars are dying and losing money in your parking lot, you know, houses and maintenance, what you're pouring into those. Guitars, you put new strings on, they're pretty cool investment for, and people enjoy that and are pretty hip to that. They're not like a hard thing to get into, to maintain. It's long-winded, but yeah, I feel like they're good. They're still growing and they're being appreciated, and you know, there's generation spikes happening.
I know it's like a total internet cliche, so I don't even want to bring it up, but like, have you ever sold a rare investment grade guitar to somebody who clearly like not only doesn't play or well, but like it literally was just like, I'm going to hold on to this like a Berkshire Hathaway share?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to do because we broker guitars for people. So when somebody knocks on the door and wants to buy something, you can't really say no. Yeah. There are items that I get, like this Martin, this 36D28 I did a video on recently. That was this guy's dad. He was in the Cascades. Incredible story, incredible human beings involved in this instrument. That was one that, and I could have sold it on the plane, you know. And, I waited a bit to find the right home, and I had the ability to do that. Conversation with the guy who wanted to go to someone nice, who wasn't going to go to like a big vault. But a lot of guitars are going to Japan and Europe, and they are looked at, like I said, American folk art. They encompass this American craftsmanship, this magical time that will never happen again. And they do get stored like bricks of gold. And guitars are not alone in that. You know,
Yeah.
I think people are like, oh yeah, the boomers are good. Everything's, I mean, man, like I was just in Japan delivering $1 million of guitars, you know, one in each hand, and guitar is alive and well in Japan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty crazy, and it's inspiring. Rock and roll, you know, I mean, what we think is going on Instagram or forums, it's you have no idea, you know. This is so much bigger than our little world, you know, and it's really cool to see that. But there are places that look at this. That being said, there are places that look at these different, not just like something you're going to play and write songs on. It's bittersweet, you know, sucks, but when they're just put in a bank vault, it is what it is, you know?
I want to circle back to the Martins and like the acoustics in general, but you just said something about that guitar acquisition, which I want to hear more about, which is just, you must have, you know, a want list of, you know, whether celebrities or wealthy individuals or just longtime customers, people saying like, if you ever find one of these, I want it. Like without pissing any of your customers off, like what is the system there? Is it just a spreadsheet? Are you just a matchmaker and in your head you're like, I gotta text this guy about this thing?
I was, you know, I love that you just said that word. I was in LA with John Mayer this week, and we were talking about that as a matchmaker of vintage guitars.
Okay.
And I was like, I love that, man. It's I do have a list. It's in my brain. It's not a physical list.
Okay. So a spreadsheet.
You know, there are guys, as I told you, I sign a lot of NDAs. I wish I could show the Rolodex every time of who are buying these guitars or what. There's so many guitars that I can't even put on Instagram, you know, when they come in, or they don't want them to ever be seen before they go to their collection. But there's a large list of Hollywood musicians, high profile business guys, public figures that are just waiting for stuff for me to find. And it's so cool to be able to do that. And it's sometimes I don't get to share that with, you know, like I said, I don't get to like share that with the world, but there's some collections that are curated that are so cool. And there's really cool themes to them. So like some of the items, like guitars played by women or dumbles or things like that. There's some amazing stuff. I hope that they're shown, but I've been able to curate some really cool themes to collections, which are some of my favorite things to do. Like there's people who are really into one type of, you know, Western guitars or this era, and those are fun to hunt down. They're tricky. But yeah, man, there's a Rolodex in my brain, and a lot of them just go straight there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you must also, like you were just saying, you must have some people who are like, all I've got is electric. Hook me up with like the ultimate bluegrass quiver or something like that.
Totally. That's my favorite thing to do. And I mean, I have been in a guitar shop my whole life. I've gone to 1 million guitar shows. I've held so many guitars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so a good guitar is hard to, you know, what does that mean? You know, people have different hand size, different playing, it's different application, different vibe, reminds them of something else. I think finding the guitars, it's like, I really kind of vet these people and try to figure out, you know, I go hang out with them or spend time with these collectors before we even get there. And then I can apply that to my world, because I've held everything. I can kind of just go, you know, this is a good one, this is a bad one.
Yeah.
I turn down a lot of guitars, but that matchmaking process is really cool. And especially when they give me a little bit of direction, like you said, like bluegrass or this, but sometimes it's like, build me a collection. And that's an interesting thing to do, because there's different tiers of that. You know, obviously when somebody says, I want the perfect lineup, that's pretty easy. But if they're playing and they're in a band and they play this style of music, I mean, that's what like I mean, that's what makes it fun, you know. That's like, because then I get to go to all the guitar shows and the collections and cherry pick with guys and kind of build this guy's thing based on his whole deal, man. And yeah, it's fun. It's fun looking at then revisiting these collections. There's like things I forget that we found. And it's like, oh my God, that was amazing.
Yeah. Seems like you guys you are getting a little more into the higher end Martin acoustic world.
Yeah, man, that was a goal of this year. Tyler Geske is a secret weapon. He is just unbelievable. Then our relationship with Mark Tossman, who is like the number one. I've turned the biggest Martin collectors from their guy to Mark Tossman.
Sure.
You know, I mean, we were just we were with the greats in Chicago recently, TJ and all. Yeah. Mark is the man. He lives close to us. He's an asset, and Tyler works under him, studies with him. He's been one-on-one with him for a long time. Tyler's amazing. Yeah. And so a goal of mine was we have this, we do a lot of electrics in the shop. We're kind of known for that, but we have always been a big, heavy acoustic shop, but we just haven't really like maybe shown them right. So we've tried to just dive into that, going to the Fretboard Summit was a great way to do that. Having Tyler do some of these cool videos. And right now I'm also into players grade Martins that were kind of once neglected that we bring up to perfection, which I think is a cool, so you can get like a 30s D18 or D28 for half the price for these players, but they are dialed in, and we found out everything, I love Carter's. You go to Carter's, there's a million players grade guitars. It's sometimes hard to figure out what is going on with them. I don't think their clientele cares. They're making, sound good, play good. For us, it's a little different. So we've really put some hardcore attention into getting some cool, obtainable players grade Martins, but they're dialed in to perfection. And that's been fun, along with the big high
dialed in by Tyler and Mark. Both. Or dialed in before you get them.
No. That's our standards are pretty high, are very high. We want to prevent returns, and we want the best of the best to give us a stamp of approval, like Stapleton and Mayer and all these guys. And so I have what happens on these big repairs is Tyler will take him in if he can, if it won't disrupt his workflow as much. And he's capable of everything. And then oftentimes when Mark comes in, they kind of they huddle over it like a campfire and make sure it's perfect. So it's just kind of a double tier thing. But Mark will do some of them if Tyler's flow, because Tyler's also doing a lot of special repairs for guys. So if I dump 5 Martins and say, make them perfect, he's like, dude, come on. So if he's overwhelmed, go to Mark Tossman. We keep it between those guys, and they've worked together like bread and butter, the last 8 years or so. And it's a cool relationship.
Yeah. I still got to make it to Mark's shop. I've never been out there.
Mark's an amazing guy, man. He is one of a kind. As you know, some of these, the oracles of the acoustic world. It was that summit was truly, I know I've said this multiple times.
Made a video about it. I loved it.
What you're doing there is I don't think I'll ever miss one of those again. It was such I love what you said in the video. You're like, is it a show? Is it a camp? What is it? I still don't know. But I know that it was I left there so inspired, and, going to all these shows my whole life. Sometimes you leave a guitar show and you're like, this is weird. This is how people act, the egos, it's just nothing I want to be part of. And it's a mess. That was inspiring. That reminded me what we're doing, why we do it, the cool club, if you want, I don't mean that I just mean guys who are into it and know their stuff. They're there, they're paying attention. It's different than anything I've been to. And TJ Thompson, Mark Stutton, all these cats, Tyler Geske, that was a moment for me, man. Seeing those guys on stage. They
went deep. As we're recording this, it's our podcast this week.
Yeah, I listened to that. That was really cool to re-listen to that. I thought they did such a great job, such different personalities. Mark is one of those guys, I don't think anybody can convince him to go anywhere. He's just he's at home busy. And, but I've seen his work over the last 20 years. I mean, I've had several pre-award D45s that I've, and when I get those in, I go to Mark for those. He's close by. And that guy's eye and feel and how he analyzes instruments is just like, it's such second nature to him, man. It's like he's a shooting star, man. I just want to absorb. And Tyler's done a great job of doing that. I think Tyler is going to be, like, without a doubt, the number one tech of my generation. I know his work ethic. I know his brain. I hope we don't cut him short. I try to give him, like, are we using him to the best of abilities? Like, videos have been a cool way, but that cat is next level. And he is learning constantly, and he's hungry, man. It's been really cool to watch him develop.
Yeah. I mean, even from afar, for me, like, he is very curious and very open and asks questions and just seems to be a student of the craft in addition to being one of the best people at the craft. Which is a rare trait. A lot of people have had, and been burned by luthiers who kind of think they know it all, and then they don't know it all. And so that's what I've enjoyed about meeting Tyler. Is just like, oh, he's a kindred student of this whole universe. So.
Dude, we were talking yesterday. One quote that I've heard my entire life from my old man is, he'd always tell me this, that he goes, repair guys, they have a lifespan about 6 to 7 years before they're burnout and before they go freaking crazy. You have to nurture them and take care of them. I apply that to all my staff, man. Like I said, like there's not one guy who is sitting on a chair. There's not one person who's talking crap about the other. It's a special thing. But Tyler, I'm like, anything like you do, it's like, I just want to nurture him because, what a high stress job. And you're so close to the best luthiers in the world. And a lot of those guys either work by themselves or hearing that cool kind of like that interview, which was very in depth about kind of like their psyche and all that, man. With Tyler in the shop, I realize how lucky I am, man. I do not take it for granted. And I really just like try to let him breathe, and like let him do kind of whatever at his own pace. I tell him all the time, say no to things anytime you want, dude. Like, don't even, because those are fragile, man. They're up against the law. Glue's drying. Some guy wants to yak at him about this, putting a freaking lipstick pickup in a Johnson acoustic. It's like, there's so many things. And and in my world, there's a million plates. I'm managing my staff. I'm managing the videos. I'm managing these massive deals. The guys who are small deals that I want to honor because they've been there and their grandfathered in. But the tech thing, being back in that small room, it's kind of magnified. Totally. It's like a fish tank,
it's a fishbowl. It really is.
And you gotta give him love, man. I feel like we have a really good working relationship. I want him there as long as I can keep him, man. I'll do anything to keep him.
Yeah. You mentioned celebrating, showcasing the higher end acoustics being one of your 2024 goals. And obviously you've done that. Do you already know what's in store for 2025? Like where your energy is going to go?
Yeah. We're trying to, there's a couple things. We do shop meetings all the time, just as a cool in the morning before the phones start ringing, and we try to put a plan together, and most of them fall apart by the time you're answering emails and stuff. But a lot of it is just to kind of check in and how are things going. A goal that I had in 2024, like you said, was the acoustics. I think we're still going to work on that. That's something that I'm really, really pushing. It's kind of been a proved concept for us in some terms. I think there's a lot of way to go there. I think for our videos, we've plateaued on kind of the pick of the day. And for us too, it's like, it's just kind of like getting tired. So we want to do these more creative videos, simpler videos on guitar tech, back to what I said about leaning into who we are as a shop, because we really feel like, it's a special thing. The people, the guys and gals who are there, they're not like, nobody has an ego. We're just like, we're all about the love. We're all about we're going to be doing this forever, for a long time. And we want good longevity things. And we want people to understand where we're at. So I think we're going to lean into some more kind of cool in-depth shop videos that are educational rather than like, demo stuff, which serve a purpose. but it's just kind of like what's next. So we're looking always at that. And then still watering that garden as far as acoustic guitars. Yeah, man, then bursts and dumbles and custom colors. I mean, those are always, I mean, I'm chasing those constantly. Those 3 dumbles I hunted down. I think I was trying to wrap my head, remember how many dumbles I've sold, and bursts. I was talking to somebody about this. The bursts, I've sold 32 bursts. 18, like maybe 15 of those were the same guitar because guys kind of shuffled the deck, right? So same transaction. Dumbles, it's got to be 20 to 23, but they're all individual amps, which is a pretty good chunk of dumbles to touch.
Yeah.
The ones I just got in recently one was from Japan, one was from the East Coast. I mean, they're kind of all spread over the world, and it's hard to track those down. It's a real thing. So we want to be an authority on that. We really feel like we've played some legendary dumbles, from Stevie Ray Vaughan's to, obviously Mayer's. We've hooked them up with several, and we want to tap into the dumble world a little bit more, just to again be kind of like, just even for educational purposes. We've been able to experience this. We'd love to work with you if you got them, if you know where they are. We have a great track record. Everybody's happy on both ends, but more so it's we're looking at things that we can share with the world that maybe aren't, your normal Strat demo. Like, let's talk about some stuff we've had the privilege of, and not just like a Wikipedia video, but more like our personal shop experience. Yeah.
Do you have somebody who can fix them?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I have a guy. I'm going to keep his name secret.
Sure.
Who I trust with dumbles.
Yeah.
I've had him service celebrity dumbles that guys have that have sent to me. And he's a guy that is, going back to the lifespan of guitar techs, amp guys, man, I'm telling you, man, send your amp guy some roses or something. You kiss your guitar tech, tip them. So, I mean, they are like, they're a dying breed. I'm worried about losing some of these guys. When are they going to finally hang up the soldering gun? But I've got a guy right now who's got years going, who's amazing. And then I've also got some cats out there under the radar who I've maybe not given a dumble to, but given them, $50,000, $100,000 amp to. Just, who are very capable, who are kind of next in line for my dumbles.
I think everyone who's ever followed anyone of note guitar-wise on Instagram has seen the picture of like the burst strapped to the plane seat because you don't want to check it in. You've done it. I think Joe Bonamassa has probably posted that picture. With a dumble worth as much, but you can't bring that onto a plane. What do you do to move these things around?
That's interesting. I just talked to a guy who does fly with them. He has a bag. The heads, he'll bring and put it on I've never done that. Very funny question, because we are like the masters of shipping. I know my shipping guy, Matt, is like, he does so many things. He wears a lot of hats there. He is the best, dude. Like, if you're getting a guitar amp, nobody packs better than this guy. It's a very important thing that has always been, I used to do it. It's an important thing. The dumbles, if we're shipping a dumble, it's going to land to you no matter what. I guarantee that. I've received some. I got one from Japan. We're talking about a $250,000 amp. The one that just came from Japan, and it was just in the road cases, and it's like, it's hard to sleep during those nights. And this thing in Japan, I had to pay beforehand because they were like, it's generally, I'm like, let's see the dumble, checks out. I'm going to pay, us, who we are. Like, these guys it was our first deal of it, and they're very honorable, and I paid them. And I waited for this dumble to ship, and I tried to communicate with them, like, and it showed up, and it was just in road cases, man. It's perfect. I got another one this week. It was in road cases. Perfect. You have to sometimes look at these like it's an amp. It's a guitar. The burst thing, I ship the dumbbells differently. I'm delivering one via car to California here pretty soon. Just kind of like getting the guy situated, how to use it. But like with bursts, it's different because it's kind of part of the mystique with burst and V's and stuff like that. Explorers. It's not just a run a card on a strat and ship a strat. It's like it's the handshake. It's a drop off, and that kind of snowballs into the whole thing, the whole picture of those guitars. You should fly with that. You should hand that off to somebody. But dumbbells, yeah, I've received, I received a Vibrolux once with a label taped on the amp, and it showed up perfect.
Yep.
I have spent taking the tubes out, wrapping the power cable so it doesn't puncture over the top. I mean, I had a guy ship me an amp with a label on the side, on the top of a Fender amp. And I was like, when it showed up, I was like, what is this? Like what? Yeah. Plugged in. It was great.
Yeah.
You never know, but I go in our position, we go overboard, but man, there's nightmares. You don't want room for error, but I've been shocked at some of the ways people have sent $1 million pieces.
Yeah. I mean, it is at this point, like, the Seattle Art Museum moving art around. Have you made like wooden crates like a painting would have?
I have. When I sold some crazy, there's some dumbbells that I sold to Mayor recently. He knows how we operate it, and they land fine. But one of the first big ones, I think it was the Henry Kaiser, that one that we're looking at out of the blue, and he used a company called Rocket Shipping, and they pick it up and they build a crate around the amp. And I've suggested that to people before. I don't use it again, because we just shipped a billion things, and I've shipped them all over the freaking world. We just kind of know how to do it and what service, we've got it down. But if you're like, I was talking to a guy who wants to buy my Mellotron that's in my office, and I'm like, I'm not shipping it, but that was a company I was going to suggest, Rocket Shipping. They showed up and they built an entire crate. It was totally over the top, but I mean, if you don't have a guy like Matt at the shop and you don't know how to do it, might as well, I don't know what that costs, but they did the full deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, man.
John Mayer with all his dumbbells.
Yeah, man. He's John is an amazing guy, man. For how, like we've been doing business for 16 years. I sold him the first thing a long time ago, and we've done a lot of amazing transactions that I want to speak on. I'll respect the privacy of that. But for a guy that is obviously a superstar, who is whip smart, who knows, I mean, he's a detailed geek on many things, guitars, watches, whatever. He's a joy to work with. And, we have a great relationship and understanding about what would be good for his collection or his thing. And, I was just in LA with some appointments this week, and one of them was with John, and it was just cool. After that long, knowing a guy who is in this different galaxy, and I'm so far from that, like, you do enough business transactions, complicated deals, interesting pieces, all the loopholes. That guy's passed the test, man. 100% like gentleman in all those years, and good dude, man, for where his kind of world, his battlefield, being who he is. But, and same with, Bottom also, if guys, people love to hate Joe, and that guy, Joe is like the best, dude. That guy's like, to everybody, to his crew, you see the people who are close to him, how they talk about him. It's I feel like I'm so lucky. I really don't deal with people I don't want to, especially anymore. I just like, I'm not worth the headache. I want to sleep at night. I want to feel good. I want to be, those two guys who are kind of big figureheads. They deserve all the love, man, for how they've kind of, over 20 years of dealing with those guys. Top notch.
Final question. I don't want to throw you under the bus on this one, but I will anyways. You've got all these names. You just mentioned a couple of them in LA. You're dealing with a high-end clientele. I know you've had a small appointment only store in LA, but is there ever a feeling of like, we should move the store to
no, because that's so interesting. I mean, I thought about that for a long time and how to do that. I remember talking to Mason Stoops like 10 years ago, because I was going to LA I go there once a month, it's like curating, maintaining collections, appraising. It was like, man, can we do what we have at the shop, man? It's like, you can't duplicate it. I didn't want to come into LA like, Trevor Boone, everyone's saying it. It's like, I like being kind of exotic, to those guys. Yeah. I don't operate like that world down there. I'm not like, it's fun to go down there and post the cool restaurant, whatever, it's fun. But dude, I'm down home, man. I'm like, I come from a family of, we were chill. We were on food stamps when I was a kid. Half my family is loggers. I like down there. It's crazy to me. And I think it's a little, I've never been too comfortable with like the real ecosystem down there. And then to come down, recreate what we've harvested here. I truly believe that you can't do that unless I lived there. And I was talking to Mason about it a long time ago, he's like, my idea was to do kind of this speakeasy or something super small. And he really was like, yeah, just start with like the smallest thing and let it kind of organically grow. What we have now I'll try to be short here. I know we're wrapping up is, we have basically a glorified trading post. It's like, I just have some guitars hanging on a wall in a secure office, because I was working out of hotel rooms and parking lots since I was 18 by myself, carrying bursts and stuff, you can't do that anymore. And the volume I was bringing and stuff, I needed a safe spot down there. And it's been a really cool way to kind of bridge that clientele. They can drop stuff off. I can pick stuff up. Again, it's like it's a trading post.
Yeah.
And it's great when we do the Guitar V deal. We're going in a couple weeks. We stay at the Hollywood RV park. I got a car down there. I've got a storage unit at a place with all my packing stuff. And I've got this space I can, if they don't want to meet in the funky ass hillbilly guitar, RV park, and we go downtown. And it's with Craft and Tailored. They let us keep some stuff there, and we just like, it's the coolest place, mid-century modern decor, just like kind of a top notch, which I think makes people a little more comfortable leaving a 59 burst there than an RV park. But that's not true, man. You would not believe how many freaking bursts and custom color strats guys would hand off to me gladly in a freaking RV park. It's like,
sure,
it's crazy, but I don't know. It's nice to have somewhere I can keep stuff overnight if I'm not there. So
I love, Trevor, I love what you're doing. I love that it reminds me, it predates me, but you read about George Gruen in the 70s going to small towns and like finding or any of these old first generation vintage dealers. And then like the vintage guitar show model kind of took over, but you are like bringing it back to like, we're going on a guitar hunt. We're going to put out feelers. Maybe you're not doing the like nickel trader ad anymore. But,
yeah, I am. I have you doing everything, man. But yeah, no, dude.
I commend you. It's awesome. It's been super inspiring to watch, and like, I just want to thank you.
Thank you, man. I mean, that means the world. I know you could easily turn into a love fest here, but I really respect and put an authority on your name and what you do. And thank you, man. I appreciate that, Jason.
All right. Come back soon.
Thank you, man.
All right. All right. That was my chat with Trevor. So much food for thought. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave me feedback, podcast@fretboardjournal.com, or just head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. We've got another disruptive figure in the world of guitars and guitar collecting next week. I'll just leave it at that. You're going to want to tune in. Till next time.